Keith Hernandez joins us for another episode of the Shea Anything podcast. We're going to talk pitching, hitting as usual. David Peterson and his struggles. What should the Mets do with him? Pete Alonso's back. How important might that be for the Mets? And also some bullpen and starting rotation questions. The starting rotation depth is going to be tested. Should Seth Lugo get a chance at helping out? It all starts right now on the Shea Anything podcast. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. A reminder to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it, and it's brought to you by Verizon. It's 5G built right for the Mets from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. And a quick SNY note, new episode of our digital series, Mets Perspective, presented by Verizon. Once again, it's hosted by Jacob Resnick and Joe DeMeo. I'm sure you know who those people are if you're a follower of Mets Twitter at all. Basically, what they're doing is highlighting some of the Mets' best prospects. And this episode that's out right now is about the Mets' 2019 first-round pick, the third baseman, Brett Baty. There's an interview with Baty, gives kind of a personal scouting report on himself, while also discussing what it's been like playing with other top prospects over in Brooklyn, Ronnie Mauricio and Francisco Alvarez. Check it out right now, sny.tv. Keith, welcome to you. What was it like watching the greatness of the Arizona Diamondbacks on a monitor? And what did you think of that series?
Well, I said it. I was texting Gary. I'm down here in Florida, so I didn't go to Africa. I went to Florida. And I was having...
By the way, that's where I was when you guys accused me of being in Africa. I was in Florida too, for the record.
I know. I was having lunch down at this local restaurant down here on the Intercoastal, and was watching the game on YouTube, and watched a fly ball in right field not be caught. I saw a shortstop and a second baseman in a shift and a double play, and the second baseman went for the ball. Then went in. He said, "Oh, well, no one's covering second. I better go cover second." And ball he could have had went in for a base hit. I always say on the air that the second division teams, particularly the last place teams, when you play 3 games with them, they will show you why they are in last place, and Arizona certainly did. So I was more concerned when it was 5-5, and I remember I texted Gary saying, they cannot lose 2 out of 3 to this team. Cannot, and they didn't.
Well, let's do some up downs, which is a new segment that we're doing, and on the up is Pete Alonso. So he's not only back, and we've seen that the power is back, but that piece of hitting last night, to your point, given the Mets the series win, that ball that he hit was barely off the ground. Does Pete, when he's right, Keith, have the ability to not just be that prototypical cleanup hitter that you always talk about, but also a guy who can drive in a run in a situation like that?
Well, even when Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs, he hit 360 that year. So not everything was a home run. But he really looks good. He's very disciplined at the plate. If you noticed, the great majority of his hits were off secondary pitches because he's really focused on going up the middle. He is learning as he's going along. They pitch him in, they have to pitch him in, and he has to learn to take that up and in fastball unless he's looking for it. I don't know if he's that far advanced yet where he can look inside. I don't know if he does. We don't have any contact with them, but I like what I see. And, he's just such a threat. I remember when he came up, he's got a lot of holes. Well, he's very much focused into not swinging at where his holes, and I just think it's one hole, 1 or 2, but he covers the great majority of the plate. And he's just been fantastic. And I think it's taken the pressure. It's no coincidence that all of a sudden Dom is hitting.
Yeah, I
think that now the extra guy in the lineup Dom doesn't feel like he's got to do it all. And now Dom got 3 hits. The final game of the series in Arizona. He had a nice series there. He's starting to hit. I think it's all because Pete's back.
Yeah, I mean, it all makes sense, Keith, to hear you say that because Lindor's hot, Dom's hot. And Pete coming back has not only, supplied some big hits in big spots, but it's also taken the pressure off. And yesterday's game was so strange. First of all, it's on YouTube. You got to stream it. So you're out of your comfort zone there, turning the game on. And then, the Mets put up, I think it was a 4 spot in the top of the first, and then 4 spot. And then David Peterson comes in and gives him right back, and then one. The Mets are not drowning in options to replace him, Keith. But at the same time, do you think that he should make his next start when his rotation spot comes up again?
I do. I still think there's an upside with him. He did not have a good day. Okay. He has got to be like a Tommy John type pitcher, hard sinker, the hard slider, and sprinkle in the changeup. He's been very erratic all year long with his sinker, and he can't throw a straight fastball. He can do it when he throws into the right-handers inside, but he's got to have that sinker going away to right-handers and down and into left-handers. And he has been very, very inconsistent with that. His ball straightens out. Now, he had a long layoff in between starts. He kept getting pushed back because of the rain delays, and you didn't take deGrom and Stroman out of the rotation. Didn't move them back, which means when you're the 5th starter, that happens. So he had a lot of extra time off. And a sinker ball pitcher, when they're strong, they tend to lose their sinker and overthrow. So I feel this one you just throw away. You have him do a side and regroup, and you give him another start, at least another start. I'm not quitting on him. I think he's got an upside.
Yeah, it was a tough decision for Rojas to make, though, Keith, pulling him out after getting just one out because, a veteran starter, you probably ask him to just grind through it, give you 5 innings, even if you give up 6 or 7 runs. I mean, Keith, as great as deGrom, Walker, and Stroman have been, only one time this season has one of them thrown 100 or more pitches in a game. Right. So they're giving the Mets length because they've been good, but by length, I mean 6 or 7 innings, basically tops. I worry that this Mets bullpen is getting taxed in May and June, and that's going to come back to bite them and bite Rojas for making as many moves as he is in July, August, and September.
Well, it's a product of how the game's evolved. I mean, there's no reason why deGrom, Walker, maybe not Stroman. I'm beginning to think that Stroman's maybe 6, 7 inning pitcher if he's got it going on. And probably I can't place a pitch count because he can go out there. He's pitched, his 8 innings. So and his pitch count is down. But it seems to me you got to keep an eye on him around that 6th inning, 7th inning. Keep an eye on him. But certainly in 40 years ago, deGrom would be, how many complete games would deGrom have? He'd be like Seaver and Gibson. He'd have 32 starts and probably 21 complete games, but that's just not the way it is today. And that's why you have more bullpen. Thus, my question to you is, if you remove Peterson from the rotation, send him down, say, who's going to be the 5th starter?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. Like when I asked you the question, it's Jared Eichhoff. You bring him up from AAA. I mean, you're giving somebody a shot that is not going to be significantly better.
But you don't know. The one thing that this front office has done, I've been impressed with the little bit players they've picked up this year as the season's progressed. To add to with all these injuries, they wouldn't have had to do this if you don't have 16 guys on the disabled list. The injured list. Now it's down to 14, I think, or something like that. But certainly as high as 17 not too long ago. So you had to make some moves. I do like McKinney. I think he's got an upside. He's very athletic. He's fast. He's got a fast bat. That's what I look for. He's got a quick bat. Now, whether he'll hit, is he had an opportunity in the past? Sometimes people are late bloomers, but I think he's someone that's caught my eye. To me, if you're getting back to the pitching, I'm not going to push the panic button when you got a 4-game lead, and is that what it is? And you're in first place by 3.5, 4 games. So Peterson's not going to pitch for 5 days. he deserves another start out there. He kind of got pushed back, and I think it's not unfair. It's just the circumstances of weather, Mother Nature, combined to make it real tough on him. So I'm not quitting on him. I mean, to me, if you have to have another starter and you think about it, it would be Gazelman. Gazelman's just been terrific. In Gazelman, they pitched him 3 innings. Don't think they didn't pitch him 3 innings on purpose. They might stretch him out and get 5 out of him. We'll see. But I'm not quitting on Peterson.
Yep, Lugo went 2 as well. You have guys who can give you length, and that's
you want to start Lugo after he's coming off that?
No, and I mean
Lugo started last year, and he did not do well. He got like second time through the order, they caught on to him.
Yeah,
he had a tough time. He got beat up pretty bad, and I thought he looked terrific that third game, the final game in Arizona. He was not. It's always had the good curveball, but he's throwing it. He threw it harder, more velocity, and it had a serious bite. He missed with his fastball up and out of the strike zone because he was probably overthrowing, all amped up. But boy, his curveball was the best. And he's got a good one. That's always been his pitch.
Yeah,
it's the best he's ever thrown it. It was really a devastating curve. I was very impressed.
Yeah, that was impressive. And for him to come out throwing 95 with that curveball, certainly good news for Mets fans. Once again, you're listening to the Shea Anything podcast. It's brought to you by Verizon, 5G built right for the Mets, from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. All right, 3-batter rule. Let's start with James McCann, Keith. And this point was made last night on Baseball Night in New York. I forget who made it. That it's possible that, the Mets really needed McCann so badly, even when he was struggling, they put him at first base and Nido catching. They needed both guys in the lineup. Is it possible you think that McCann playing first was almost like a distraction from his struggles? Like he has to focus every night on the pitching staff, and also the fact that he was hitting like 200. He goes to first base, a position he's not comfortable with, and that in and of itself takes up a lot of his headspace. And then suddenly, the bat comes back because maybe he's pressing a little bit less. Do you think there's something to that?
The only thing I'll give a little bit to is the fact that he doesn't have to worry about calling pitches and being involved with the pitchers. But that's what he does. He's a catcher. He's not a 180 hitter. He's going to hit sooner or later. There was a lot of cold weather, a lot of rain delays. Postponements in April and May. It wasn't a great month for that as well. Sooner or later, what's he going to do? Hit 190 the whole year? He'll get it going. He's using the other field. It was good to see him hit that home run off of Bumgarner, and Bumgarner is not the same pitcher that he was. Obviously, he's lost so much on his velocity and his fastball, so many innings on that arm of his. But it's just a matter of time. I mean, maybe they're starting to heat up. New environment, new team, a lot of expectations, new fan base. It can be unsettling, and playing in New York, it's a little added angst when you play in New York. And so I think maybe some adapt to it right away, and others it takes a little time.
Well, Keith, I mean, McCann's been great. The defense at first base, it was like they didn't skip a beat. Now you got Alonso back, and it feels like his return was really closer. It brings this team closer to being whole than anyone else who could have possibly returned off the injured list. And speaking of first base, Keith, I wanted to get your take on, and this is the second of our 3-batter rule. Marcus Stroman's walking off the mound after the 5th inning 2 nights ago. And Josh Rojas on the Diamondbacks, was 0 for 3 against Stroman and starts kind of making eye contact with him, chirping him a little bit. And Stroman goes back at him. And, the Diamondbacks end up winning that game. And, of course, the storyline ends up being that Stroman and that dust-up woke the Diamondbacks up. And this is a team that had lost so many games in a row. They needed something. I guess two-part question, which I hate doing, but stay with me. A, do you think that that's legitimate, that a team can wake up from something like that? And B, did you ever do something like that as a player to try and get everybody going?
I never did something like that to try to get the team going. Never. We didn't see, because we didn't have, wasn't our feed. You know, we're working off the production team in Phoenix, and so we didn't know who popped off first, who started it, and I still don't to this day. What I've read, it seems like Rojas, what that was his intent. You know, whoop-de-doo. I mean, it would have been more, I think, professional of Marcus just to ignore it and go into the dugout, let sleeping dogs lie. So to me, it's over. It's in the past. It's done. It's fun. It's interesting how it played out. The next inning, he gives up a 3-run home run, and the next thing you know, the Mets get coughed up a 4-run lead. You know.
Yeah, that's what kind of we talked about on the show last night, which was we like on talk shows to say, yeah, it's sleeping dogs lie. To your point, that's Stroman's best. The best course of action there for Stroman was to ignore it so that you don't start anything. But at the same time, I don't know if a 3-run homer happens with or without that, bench clearing thing. And also, that's not who Marcus Stroman is. He's not going to ignore that kind of thing. And I think that fire that he has is a big part of what helps him succeed.
I agree.
And the Mets need him to be himself in order to be his best version of himself.
I agree. And, he is a guy that's reactive, and he's emotional, and he will react to a challenge. He's always talking about, it's not the size of the guy, it's the size of the heart and all that. And so it's a big, it's a big deal with him. He's very competitive on the mound. He takes the ball every 5th day, and he's going to go out there and give you a good outing and be competitive, and not, when things get tough, he doesn't wilt away. He's a quality pitcher, and he's an important part of our staff. He's absolutely a solid starting pitcher.
Yeah, and I think his teammates appreciate that competitiveness, and I'm sure that you can sense that, because it's, how badly he wants to win, and I think he puts a lot of pressure on himself, to your point. And the one thing I feel confident about is that he's going to win a Gold Glove, because that's been a treat, and I've mentioned that on the podcast. Every time out, it seems he is another infielder, and we never talk about pitchers fielding these days, but he's really good. Speaking of pitchers, Keith, Jacob deGrom threw a curveball the other night, which I think it was neat. I can't imagine how interesting it was for McCann to put that sign down and have deGrom agree to throw that pitch. What do you think of the fact that, he's got this extra weapon in his holster, and he brought it out for once?
Well, he has such a great slider. I mean, it was just another fine performance, fine-tuned would be the word. Fastball and slider were devastating. He didn't hardly use his changeup until around the 4th, 5th inning, second time through the order. He started sprinkling the changeup, and he just didn't need it. This lineup right here, they'll chase high fastballs. He's just, it's like any great pitcher. Carlton, if he threw the slider and down and in, and to a right-hand hitter, which he always did, he threw it all the time. But that right-hand hitter swung at that slider this far inside and that far off the ground, and Carlton's slider was huge. He would just keep feeding it in that right-hand hitter until that right-hand hitter stopped swinging at it. And that's what deGrom did in Arizona. That poor left-hand hitter that was hitting 190, can't think of his name, that swung at everything in the dirt, struck out 2 times. And deGrom just kept, it was just like the reverse of Carlton. And I was watching, I said, he's going to keep throwing it. And he sure did. That's how fine and pinpoint he is. And he just runs that fastball up there. I just think that he Oh, he felt so good and in rhythm. It was in the middle of the game, and he just said, "Okay, I think I'll just mix in this." And you know what? He threw it in a great spot. It was a good curveball. So he's just extraordinary. Where we are seeing something that is like Seaver in his prime, Bob Gibson, Don Sutton, all the great pitchers. That's what we're seeing right now. He is just that good.
In the fourth inning of that start, did you think he had a chance at a perfect game?
I think he's got a chance at a no-hitter every time he goes out there. I really do. I actually because there's some lineups out there that you send a limo for. And, the way they're hitting today, the way he pitches upstairs, and all the articles we're seeing written now, which I've been saying for 2 years, with this launch angle and uppercut swing, it feeds right into deGrom. He just knows how to work up in the strike zone and then down. It's up and down the ladder. I've got new terminology today. The game hasn't changed as far as a pitcher, up and in, low and away, and that's what he does. He is extraordinary, and they're calling higher strikes this year. Did you see the Wall Street Journal article today?
I didn't.
Check it out. It's a good article in the Wall Street Journal. I got it online. I don't know if it's in the paper, but it's about the hitting, called the hitting depression. And it's all about the launch angle and swinging up. It feeds right into deGrom, and he's got it down. Remember, what we've seen him for such a long time. We've seen him develop, and now we're seeing it's this diamond in the rough. And now the jeweler finally just cracked the most perfect cut of a diamond. We've got like a gorgeous 15-karat diamond.
Do you feel different before you do a game that he's pitching significantly than any other games that you do?
No, I don't. I prepare the same way. I look at the lineup of the other team. A lot of times we don't see a lot of the teams. We only play the other out of division, one home, one away. I wish we'd get back to playing in our league and playing out of division 2 and 2. 2 home series and 2 road, and heck with the interleague play. Get back to playing in the national leagues so we can see these players more. But I just go one time through the lineup and I observe, and then I know who's got a chance to get a hit off of him and who hasn't got a prayer. There's a lot that don't have a prayer.
Yeah, that's to your point about him being able to throw a no-hitter every time out. I was watching his start with my family, and I was sitting around. I was like, something special might happen tonight. The Diamondbacks are very bad. deGrom, his pitch count, it was in the 30s at the time. I was like, this is looking good. And then we gave up a hit. I was shocked.
I have one little observation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Every time now he comes out throwing 100 miles an hour, first 2 innings, gas, right? 95, 99. Where's analytics? Where's the other opposing hitters? I'm going first time through the order. deGrom likes to air it out. He's sitting fastball. These guys I'm waiting for him to change it. One game he comes out and he sprinkles. He doesn't come out just airing it out. He comes out throwing to breaking stuff. I'm waiting for that game.
Well, is it possible that his fastball and fastball location is so good that even if you're getting fastball heavy, you still don't really have a shot?
The players can't hit the high fastball today with that swing, and he knows it, and the players know it, and they either got to take it and make them get the ball down. I mean, when you face Nolan Ryan, Seaver, all the hard throwers that threw upstairs, always was you got them. They're more effective up here. They throw harder up here too. They have more velocity up here than when you make them. Clemens was the same way. Clemens, you see the ball better down, the fastball better down. It rises up and it gets more velocity upstairs. So you really got to focus. I cannot swing at this fastball here to the letters. I cannot swing at that. I got to and you get ahead in the count, 1-0, 2-0. But I know it's difficult when it's 100 miles an hour and it's taken off, but you're seeing it. He doesn't throw that fastball is the same, whether it's 101 or 102 or 100, it's the same rise. Okay, so you got to figure out of his hand where it is, elevation wise, and that's going to be a ball because it's going to rise and take it, and then get into a hitter's count. If I face deGrom, I don't want to hit his slider. I don't want to hit his changeup. They're good pitches. If I get a fastball down the strike zone, I'm looking for a fastball out over the plate. I'm not going to let a fastball go by. And I see the hitters facing him second time through the order. They've seen him, and they take strike one. And I'm going, how can you take a fastball strike one and go, oh, and do I want to be 0-1 on deGrom? I don't think so. I certainly don't want to be 0-2.
Yeah, I don't look. I feel for anybody who's in that position. But yeah, being 0-1, I mean, it just feels like it's over before it even starts. Last thing, Keith, we're past Memorial Day now. Let's do Louis because I think he's finally getting the credit that he deserves for the fact that the Mets have the largest division lead in baseball. And they've had, to your point, Billy McKinney and Cameron Maybin and Jose Peraza and all these guys in the lineup every day. What have you thought just generally of the job that Rojas has done so far this year?
Well, the team likes him. They play hard for him. They want to win. So they're motivated. So is it Louis? Okay. They went through that one period where they were all upset when they fired Chile, Davis. They're over that now. They've moved on. Sure, he's done a good job. I just think he's still learning how to handle the bullpen's been so good, but I think that he stays with pitchers. I think he's loyal to pitchers, almost to a fault. I mean, if I was a manager, I'd want to get the 5 innings. The pitcher's struggling. He's in the 4 2/3. He's in trouble. I want to give him a chance to get that blast out, and I'll yank him after 5, and so he has a chance to get a win. I think the only guy that you really got to be careful with in that bullpen is Trevor May. Trevor May puts a lot into his pitches, and when he throws 20-plus pitches, I don't think you can bring him back the next day. And to me, there's no reason you have to bring him back the next day because you're so deep in that bullpen.
Yeah.
So I was surprised he brought him back to back in Arizona, and he wound up getting a loss in game 2. But he threw 26 pitches in the first game, and he struggled, and he had a lot of time off. And then Louis likes, what I've seen too, is when a guy reliever has a bad day, he likes to run him back out there the next day. And I don't know if he got that from his father or not. I don't know, but I think it's a show of confidence, or he feels that that guy's had a bad day. I want to get him right back in it. But I think with May, just got to be, I would be reluctant to use him 2 days in a row, particularly if he had a long outing, a really arduous outing, because every pitch he puts everything into, and he's emotional too. He's a hot-tempered little guy, big guy. He's all fiery. He gets all wound up.
Yeah, Rojas did that with May when his first outing of the year wasn't good. Brought him back out the next night and kind of changed.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly that's a good point. That's his kind of MO when it comes to relievers. He's also clearly one of those managers, and I think every manager does this, honestly, that just trusts who he trusts. Like there's a circle of trust right now. Castro, May is probably out of it now, Familia, Diaz, and he does tend to skip over a group that maybe could use more work. Reed Foley when he was there, Gesellman, Aaron Loup, maybe. There's a group there that may be underutilized where there's 3 or 4 relievers that might be overworked right now.
Drew Smith, how do you mix him in there?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're right. I think Familia has moved up above the pecking order, moved above May, but that could change.
Right.
Familia is a Rolaids pitcher. He gets in trouble and he gets out. He can give up a couple hits, fall behind, walk a guy, and then make nasty pitches and get out of the inning. And that's what he's done all year. He's been great, but he is like he's definitely an Excedrin headache number 250.
Yeah, there's definitely the possibility of a headache every time he comes in the game. Every Met fan knows that. Just a reminder to subscribe to the Shea Anything podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. Rate and review us as well. And another reminder that we're brought to you by Verizon. It's 5G built right for the Mets, from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. Keith, thank you. Always good to talk Mets baseball with you. We'll talk to you in the coming days and weeks, and enjoy the rest of your last time off before the midseason run.
Right, I'll be back for this weekend series at home with San Diego.
All right. That's Keith Hernandez. I'm Doug Williams. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will talk to you next week.